Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein is not just a story about monsters, it's about the horrors of being human, about all of those who did not receive the love from the village and why did they decide to burn the village to the ground. And as someone who is painfully annoying and a purist at heart, I can tell you for a fact that Guillermo del Toro has made justice to Frankenstein in the best way possible. And let me tell you why. Hello, my gorgeous viewers and readers. I hope your weekend was filled with dark, cold evenings and the search for the humanity within your monstrous self. 2 days ago, I had the opportunity to watch Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein, and honestly, I had huge expectations, but I knew better, and I knew that I could trust my best friend Guillermo del Toro in making justice to my girl Mary Shelley, and honestly, he did not disappoint me. But I must say, as someone who has read Frankenstein an unhealthy amount of times and who is obsessed with Mary Shelley, there is a lot I have to say about this film. So without any further ado, let's start. The first thing that I have to mention is that the plot of the film slightly differs from the plot of the book, giving the creature a much more human touch. In the film, we see the story through two perspectives. We see Victor's tale and then we see the creatures, which is not something that we see in the book, but that I actually really enjoyed. And if you want a full review of the book or like a more accurate perspective of the book, you can now watch my video on my YouTube channel. The link is over here. But yeah, I think the fact that we see the story through two sides of the coin, I think actually makes the story much more richer. Starting with Victor's tale, actually his story tells us a lot more context about his childhood. In the film, we see how Victor's father is this very emotionally distant and abusive father, but also partner. He is the kind of person who just low-key abandons his family and then returns after some months in order to keep things straight, right? Whereas his mother, on the other side, she is the kind of angel, an innocent and pure creature that he seems to love so much. And we see from the get-go that he is slightly obsessed with his mother and he views her as his property, right? We see how this angelic creature actually shaped the way that he views women, but also the way his life is shaped. Victor's father is obsessed with Victor learning about medicine because he wants to keep the practice throughout generations, right? And throughout the story, we see how Victor's father is actually very abusive towards Victor when it comes to knowledge, right? He's always trying to make him learn, but in a way that indicates fear, right? Because if Victor gets something wrong or he doesn't remember something that he has taught him, he will actually cane him and abuse him. So I would say that in this sense, this relationship actually shapes Victor into becoming obsessed with knowledge, right? He wants to know more. He wants to do more. He wants to be better than his father. Whereas on the other side, his mother, the relationship that he has with his mother is actually very much incestuous and I would say emotionally very repelling, right? Because we see how she really leans onto him and he leans on her, right? They have this sort of parental incestuous relationship, I would say, at least in the emotional side. And the fact that his mother dies by the hands of his father, or at least that's what Victor himself thinks, that makes him obsessed over medicine, but not only because he wants to know more than his father, as I mentioned earlier, but also because he wants to cure death. He wants to cure the disease that actually killed his mother, right? He wants to be better than his father, but also deal with this grief and this pain that he is experiencing because of the loss of the only person that actually cared about him. In my opinion, Victor's story shows us how Victor is slowly losing his humanity, right? Because we see a child that is extremely kind, who is innocent and who is extremely caring and gentle, but then slowly throughout the years and because of his obsession and his unhealed generational trauma, he becomes his villain. He becomes the person that he never wanted to be, which is his father. The creature's story, on the other side, teaches us how someone becomes human. It shows us how humanity is in its rawest form. We see the bad, we see the ugly, and we see the good. We see everything. From the get-go, the creature's kind and curious nature, combined with his terrifying looks, actually make him the target of oppression and abuse, right? We see how Victor actually abuses him, but also the sailors and the family of the farmer, right? He is always considered as something evil, as something that has to be eliminated. It's only with certain characters who also face oppression that actually finds the actual kindness of humanity and finds what it is to be gentle. Thank you to Elizabeth, for example, or for the blind man. These two characters who are also oppressed and who are also experiencing exclusion from society are actually the ones that show the best kindness, or that show the gentleness or the kind side of humanity. These plot differences within the film have actually created a very unique version of the story and actually have made it richer, or at least in my opinion, because I think Guillermo del Toro has actually completely understood what the synthesis of the book is and what is the main point of the book, and he has actually added things that make sense to the story. These are the main differences that I have found. And why do I think these differences make the story richer? Let me tell you. The first difference that I found in the film is the fact that Victor experienced abuse by the hands of his father. This is not something that happens in the book, or at least to my knowledge. But yeah, I would say that this is one of the main key differences that I found. And actually, I think makes the story much more believable, because at the start of the film, when the creature is born, obviously we see how Victor takes this very fatherly role with him, right? He is taking care of him, he's actually trying to make him learn, and he is smitten by the fact that this creature exists, right? Or that he has actually made it, which is something that seems to be very common with new fathers when they have children, right? They are obsessed with the fact that they have created life, right? And this is something that we see in Victor. But then slowly it turns south, because first of all, Victor is not prepared to be a father, obviously, but also because he did not think of the consequences, or that what would happen afterwards, after creating this creature. Because in his mind, with the creature and with the fact that he has been successful with creating said monster, he has proved his father wrong. He has proved that he is better than him, and that he has done what he could never do, right? He has proved to himself that he is better than him. But then it very rapidly goes south, because he realizes that he's just like his father, right? Because he doesn't have any patience for the creature. He just doesn't really care about the fact that this creature exists, or that this creature can learn, because at the end of the day, he has learned his name. But what he wanted is to create something that just miraculously work out of nowhere, which is exactly what his father did, right? And then we see how Victor, even though he's trying to make the creature learn, he very fastly turns abusive and just does the same thing as his father did, which is giving him physical pain if he makes mistakes. In general, what I see in the film is that the more Victor tries to prove everyone around him that he's not like his father, the more this trauma and this obsession consumes him, and the more abusive he becomes, not only towards the creature, but towards everyone else. He is actually the conductor of everyone's mistakes and everyone's nightmares, and just everyone dying, basically. The second main difference that I found in the film is the role of both Elizabeth and Victor's mother. In my opinion, making Mia Goth play both Elizabeth and Victor's mother is brilliant. And honestly, I think it's such a good decision, and it makes so much sense to me. it is very clear to me that Victor's romantic desires towards Elizabeth are actually rooted in his desires towards his mother, right? Because he mentions both in the film and in the book that Elizabeth reminds him of his mother, right? This kindness, this gentleness, and this overall nature that Elizabeth has, that is something that his mother also had, right? He sees Elizabeth as a very motherly creature, or as a very motherly person, and someone who could take care of him, right? He has this sort of psychosexual desire of being with his mother, right? I wouldn't say necessarily in a sexual way, but he has a desire to be with someone like his mother because that is the only kindness that he received. In Victor's mind, both Elizabeth and his mother are actually martyrs. They are these creatures who were too good to be true in the first place, but also that saw past his ugliness and actually saw the good in him. And this is why he desires Elizabeth so much. It's not because he actually likes her, but it's because she actually tolerates him. Now, the third difference that I have seen in the film is Elizabeth's empathy and love for the creature, which is actually my favorite, and I thought that genuinely made the film. First off, I have to mention that I love Elizabeth's character in the film, not only because of her design. The costumes are insane, honestly, goosebumps, but also I really love the way Guillermo del Toro has designed Elizabeth's character, right? I love that she is a lost spirit, that she's someone who has melancholy in her, that she is too smart for her own good, and that she is very aware that she fits nowhere. That's why she gets along so well with the creature. In both stories, or in both perspectives, Elizabeth is a misunderstood character. She is forcibly molded into a role that she doesn't want to fit into, or a role that she can't fit into. But it's still, anyways, because she is a woman, she has to be put in this role. And also, her sensibilities, or her own imagination and creation or creativity, are actually frowned upon, not only by her uncle, but also by her fiance as well, by Victor's brother William. They both reject her naturally caring and gentle nature. We see this in the first conversation that both Victor and Elizabeth have, right? We see how both William and her uncle just disappear from the table after having dinner because she is getting into a passion or into a project that she's passionate about, right? We see how they could not care less, right? And that shows me that actually, in fact, they don't see, or they don't view Elizabeth as a human, but more as something that has to be seen but not heard. As a woman, or as a character, Elizabeth is already monstrous. She's already a monster that doesn't fit into society, right? We see how her passion for insects and for bugs actually make her look like a weirdo, right? Or the way she dresses is very pompous and very colorful, instead of the way that other people use pastels, for example. We see how she is loud, and she is this kind of person that has this sort of sadness within her, which is not approved by anyone around her. So in her mind, or within society, she is already a monster. That's why she gets along so well with the creature, because they are both rejects of society. That is why when she first meets the creature, she is immediately protective of him, right? We see how she shows him the care and gentleness and kindness that she craves so badly. In this sense, I would say both Elizabeth and the creature are kindred spirits. They are two peas in the same pot. They are two creatures who are rejected by society, but they find each other and they find the kindness within themselves and within the other. They see the ugly parts of each other, but they also see the good and the kindness of each other. In my opinion, the root of all evil is actually Victor's family trauma, the abuse that he endured as a child, but also the loss of his first love actually turned him into what he is now, which is a monster. I see all the hatred that he has towards his father, but also towards God because of the loss of his mother, but also I see all the obsessions that he has because of all of these, right? We see the fear fear of death and the fear of losing everything and becoming nothing as his father had predicted, right? He wants to prove people wrong, and he wants to show to everyone else that he is actually the greatest of it all. And actually, that is what makes him the monster, because all of these unhealed trauma have actually shaped all the actions that he makes towards every other character, but also more specifically towards the creature. This is the biggest realization that he has at the end of the film, right? He realizes that his obsession and his necessity for proving everyone wrong actually has made him isolated, because he has killed everyone else, right? And also he has made himself vengeful, because he realizes that the only thing that has filled him with passion, or that has kept him going for the next years, is the fact that he wants to prove his father wrong. But then he realizes that he has become the one thing that he never wanted to be, which is his father. And this is what he realizes after having the last conversation with the creature. And it's the fact that all these desires and all these obsessions have made him a rotten man. He is nothing but his father's son. And then that is when it finally clocks him that all the feelings that the creature has of pain and rage towards him are actually the same feelings that he has towards his father, because he has behaved the same way, right? And this is why I think that Frankenstein's biggest lesson is this ancient African proverb that says, a child who is not embraced by the village will burn it down to ashes to feel its warmth. Because that is exactly what the creature does, right? He doesn't feel the warmth of the village, which is his father or Victor. So then he swears revenge, and he swears that he will cause as much pain as possible, because he didn't choose to be born. He was just put on earth, and then he is just experiencing pain. That is why he wants revenge. What makes this film so compelling and so magical is the fact that Guillermo del Toro completely understood the point of Frankenstein. Because what is really horrendous about the story, it's not the monster, or is not what the monster does, is what happens to the monster, right? We see how abuse, isolation, and also social criticism and oppression actually shape you into becoming the villain. Because when you think that you are the problem, then you become other people's problem. For me, this film is living proof that Mary Shelley's Frankenstein is still relevant and it still lives within us. Because at the end of the day, the creature was never the monster. It was always us. That's all for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope that you have enjoyed the film as well. Please let me know what you think of the film, if you liked it or not. And if you have read the book and you have any other interpretation, please let me know as well. I would love to know your opinion. Let me know in the comments, or you can also let me know on my social media. I post that every day, and I post other type of content. So please make sure that you follow me there as well. But again, thank you so much for watching, guys. I hope you have a great rest of your week, and I will see you soon. Bye.